Hello all my Kenvians and welcome to a brand new episode of Discovering Steven Universe. In the previous episode, the cluster was finally dealt with, at least for now, and the crystal gems returned with Lapis, and the fate of Jasper is still unknown. So, today's episode is Same Old World, and I don't know if this is going to be like a reflection for Steven of after they handled this world-changing event, or potentially world-changing event, or what exactly. But let's get right into it and begin Same Old World. And begin.
Okay.
Oh my god, he's Caterpillar. Sleeping bag.
You could always come back to the temple with us and live in the bathroom again.
No thanks. I have seen what goes on in there. Place. And I should.
Can't hide from me for too long because you love me so much.
That design of Steven's hair looked kind of weird.
Whoa. Lapis.
Oh, she didn't leave.
Okay, let's go look.
Ready, Freddy?
My name's Lapis. You okay like this?
Aw, so cute.
Populated by machines?
No, those are cars. They make a lot of smog, though. You like it. You seem to hate the earth, too. We're flying and I'll scar your boots.
New York, New Jersey.
Like, here?
Yeah, here.
Here, everybody. What are we talking about?
You?
Leslie, nice to see you up and about.
What are you doing here?
Uh-oh.
This is my new home away from home world.
No, it's not. It's mine. Right, Steven?
Oh, no. Oh, it's going to lead to some interesting predicaments. All right, just a few minutes to get my thoughts together, and I'll be right back after the break. All right, so, I mean, as you can tell there at the end, I definitely laughed quite a bit, and it is probably no surprise that I actually really like this episode. So, let's get right into it with my favorite parts about this episode. And, spoiler, I actually do have an annoyance, but it's one that you all will probably think is super nitpicky. Just a little spoiler there. But anyway, my favorite parts of this episode. Starting off with Peridot's retelling of the events that occurred in the previous episode. Just watching her explain things is always hilarious. I don't know, I think it's a combination of the voice and how she's super expressive with her arms and everything, which is actually kind of funny if you think about it, because she had the extensions before, and when she had those, she didn't really move a lot. It's like it was very like simple movements, but now that she's her adorable tiny self, it's like she's super expressive and is always moving, it seems like. So yeah, just again, my first favorite part of this episode is Peridot's retelling of the events from the previous episode. My second favorite part of this episode is the adorable sleeping bag that Steven is in. That little caterpillar, I think. I don't know if it's supposed to be another creature, perhaps, but it's just freaking adorable no matter what it is. So, yeah, I know it's super minor, but it was a favorite part of the episode for me. My third favorite part, and this should be no surprise at all, is flying with Lapis. Just the entire concept of it, the way it's portrayed, how it looks. I mean, it looks like Steven and Lapis are having fun. And, I mean, that's not uncommon for Steven, but with Lapis, I'm trying to think if we've ever actually seen her happy through the course of the show. And I don't think so. She's pretty much always been going through some horribly emotional turmoil or something along those lines. I honestly, I think this may have been one of the first times we saw her smile. I mean, I could be remembering incorrectly there. I apologize if so, but wow, just it was an amazing sequence of events, and it was really beautiful overall. And actually, an extension of that is my next favorite part of this episode, Empire City, aka New York City, obviously, and its neighboring state, Jersey. I don't think they actually refer to it as New Jersey, just Jersey, but it's clear. It's clear. So, and what was it someone said? It's like, quit flying in our sky, you mooks, or something like that. It just, that little segment right there, loved it. Just absolutely loved it. My next favorite part of this episode is the flashback, the retelling of what happened to Lapis when she was abandoned on Earth. And just I mean, she got caught in the middle of a war zone, which, I mean, I can only assume wasn't her intention. She was just visiting the Earth, but I'm assuming just a battle broke out. And she was poofed by a rebel crystal gem. She was found and assumed to be a rebel crystal gem, or rather her gem was, which that seems like a really strange deduction to make all of a sudden. Just like, oh, well, this must surely be a crystal gem. But, I mean, this just kind of goes along with Lapis's continuing bad luck for a long time. And then just being left there, not shattered, but broken, cracked at the very least. And yeah, just, it was very sad. And scary at the same time, just especially the way they portrayed the homeworld gems, like staring into the mirror, like just that big group of, even though they're silhouettes essentially, like colored silhouettes, just all these homeworld gems just staring. And it's clear that it's like the screen that we're looking through is supposed to be the mirror itself looking out onto them. So yeah, just that flashback was just an amazing part of this episode. And then my last and final favorite part of this episode is the end of it. When Peridot sees Lapis and Lapis sees Peridot, and just a hilariously uncomfortable moment where it's clear Lapis is not very accepting of the fact that Peridot is there, not only there, but is staying there, and because Lapis thinks that this is supposed to be just hers, which will undoubtedly lead into the next episode, I'm assuming anyway. But yeah, those are my favorite parts. My one annoyance, and again, I realize that this is going to be extremely nitpicky on my part, but I can't help it. The way that Steven's hair was animated, or at least drawn in certain parts of this episode, it just looked off. It looked much, much bigger than it usually is. Like it seemed like a bit of artistic inconsistency there. Like his hair has been poofy a lot of times, but for some reason it seemed off this time. And then whenever they were portraying the wind, like when they were on top of the silo, just the moving of it, for some reason it worked okay for me when they were flying, I guess. But yeah, just those certain elements of it just bothered me a lot. It seemed like maybe the animator or the artist for that particular portion was asleep at the wheel. And I mean, I just don't know. It bothered me for some reason, and it bothers me more than it should, I'm sure. But moving on from there, that's my annoyance. The moment of terror that I had is definitely a light one, but it's when we have that scene again of all the homeworld gems, their silhouettes, staring into the mirror or staring at us. And that was just, it was creepy. It was just really terrifying, and I think that's what it's supposed to portray, since that's the perspective of Lapis for all those years when she was being used by the homeworld gems. But yeah, that was really well done in my opinion. But okay, those are my favorite parts, annoyances, and moment of terror. Moving on from there, my track of the episode, again, not knowing the actual names, but I'm calling it Flying with Lapis. The music that was playing as Steven and Lapis are flying through the air. It's peaceful, it's joyful, it's a little bit somber, but it's just absolutely beautiful. And I mean, I remember there being some other tracks that stood out to me, but that one just stood out the most, I guess you might say. Now, as for my quote of the episode, there were actually 3, because there were just some moments that really stood out to me more than others. It's like there have been times where I've had a lot of quotes in mind and I whittle it down to 1, but for some reason just all of these stood out to me. The first of which was after Steven asked if Peridot wanted to come back to the gym, the Crystal Gem's place, and stay in the bathroom, and Peridot replies, "I've seen what goes on in there." I mean, it's true. I understand that completely, but just the way it's delivered is perfect in my opinion. My second quote of the episode is what I assume is either Steven misquoting what they say about Empire City, or just a ridiculous saying that Empire City has, but what happens in Empire City never sleeps. It's just perfect, honestly. I love its absurdity. And then my final quote of this episode is a more serious moment, but it's right there at the end when Steven is pointing out to Lapis about how she's not trapped there, about how she's free. And he tells her, if you stay here, it's your choice to stay here. And that's a really, considering everything that Lapis has been through her life, which, we're only told really through exposition, but it's understandable. Choice has never really been an option for her most of the time. And so just the simple idea of Steven saying that to her, and it settling in, sort of settling in on her mind that if she does stay, it's her choice. That's just a beautiful moment, and that's something that really can apply far outside of this show for many, many people, because a lot of people typically don't have choices, or they feel like they don't have choices. So to be able to have a moment like that where you're told, or not even told, but you realize that you have the choice to do this or not, is just, it's a wonderful thing. It really is. So yeah, those are all my quotes. As for a question regarding this episode, it had to do with the flashback. And it actually is the moment where Lapis got poofed into her gemstone. And my question is, who was the rainbow-haired gem? Now, in a lot of these flashbacks, we get kind of generalized silhouettes most of the time, or like we get essentially versions of gems we've already seen. Like we saw the rubies in a flashback. We've seen one that looks like Jasper, kind of, with the long hair. So it's like it's ones we've seen before, but this one with the rainbow hair was it stood out. Like it seemed like a strange amount of detail to be in there, and the fact that it wasn't rose quartz, it wasn't pearl, garnet, or amethyst. Well, actually, amethyst wasn't even there during all that. But it wasn't any of them. It was this large rainbow-haired crystal gem. I'm curious if we might find out who she is, or even there being some references to her in the future, and how that might go over with Lapis. But yeah, that's just my question. Who was the rainbow-haired gem? Legitimately curious. And then finally my theory, and I kind of touched on this earlier, but my theory is it's going to take more than one episode for Lapis to accept Peridot. Now the next episode's name is Barnmates, so I figure that the focus is most likely going to be with Peridot and Lapis and trying to get along there. But especially because of what all Lapis has been through, and the fact that Peridot was piloting the ship that had her in that jail and got submerged and all that, I have a feeling that Lapis will eventually accept Peridot, but it's going to take a while. It's not going to be one of those, hey, we've got our problems resolved in one episode kind of deals. Kind of like how it was with Garnet and Pearl. Maybe not quite as long, but then again, it's hard to say. So yeah, that's my theory. Now, as for my overall thoughts on this episode, it should be rather clear, I really enjoyed it. It's another one of those where we didn't really get much action, but the story that we're told, the plot of the episode, the flashback story that we get, the beautiful music, the beautiful visuals, just all in all encompasses a really good, strong episode. And it ended on a great note because it leaves you wondering, well, what's going to happen here? And Steven was clearly uncomfortable. And hopefully some of that discomfort is alleviated in the upcoming episode. But that's all I have to say about Same Old World. This was, again, a really enjoyable one. I'm looking forward to hearing what you all have to say about this episode. Some of your favorites, annoyances, quotes, so on and so forth. And also some of your thoughts on what I've had to say. And before I close here, as previously, I just wanted to mention that if you'd like to see more episodes like this, and whether it be Discovering Steven Universe or some of the other shows that I've been doing, if you'd like to see them ahead of time, anywhere from a day to possibly a week or two ahead of time, if you go over to the PapaKennMedia Patreon, link in the description down below and at the end of this video, you'll be able to go check out the campaign, and for as little as $1 a month, you can become a patron, and you'll get access to all the PapaKennMedia videos as soon as they're uploaded. There will be certain ones that will be posted there about the same time they go live, which are usually like vlogs or updates that I record on the same day. But for the most part, again, when it comes to the Discovering series and a lot of other videos I'm going to be doing, if you'd like to get early access to those, again, for as little as $1 a month, you can get access. If you decide not to, no worries. I appreciate every single one of you that watch these videos and comment and like, and heck, just watch them. That's amazing too. I appreciate every single viewer I get. But that's all I have to say, and thank you again, everyone, for being here for this episode of Discovering Steven Universe, and I will see you all in the next episode, Barnmates. Until then, I'm Papa Ken. I'll see you next time.